games against the Philadelphia Phillies. Obviously, Padres go down. They lose all 6 of those games. And we start looking at the standings. And now all of a sudden, at least after the game yesterday, people were heated. They're heated about how the Padres have started the season. They're, well, heated more, of course, of the losing 9 of 10, losing 5 in a row. They go 1-5 in their homes, in their the road series they have against the Nationals and the Phillies. So we know that. Let's put all that to the side. You're about to start a 6-game homestand, and you're going up against teams that you actually should be beating. You're going up against squads that you're hoping you could take advantage of the schedule that's in front of you. Here's the problem. Here's the only issue that I have with getting ready to talk Padres baseball and saying something along the lines of, hey, I think the Padres should win this series, or I think the Padres not only should beat the Mets, but I also think they should beat Cincinnati. And after that, they're going to go on a series in Baltimore. The only issue with that, I'm sure that the New York Mets are walking into a series against the San Diego Padres and are saying, hey, maybe we could get back on track. I'm sure the Reds will be thinking about San Diego and saying to themselves, well, they've lost 9 of 10. I mean, maybe it's not as bad as we think it is. Cincinnati, just to kind of give you guys an idea, sitting 31-30, and then the New York Mets, who the Padres start this 3-game set against, sitting at 27-35. So I've spent this last 24 hours just, giving my thoughts on where the San Diego Padres are sitting and how do they turn things around and what's the conversation going to be? How can we change the conversation? How can it be unique? I know this much. I know that there is no series that San Diego will play that I feel confident about right now. I don't care if they're playing the Mets, who are 8 games below 500. I don't care if the Nets are one of the more disappointing teams in all of baseball. There is no game that San Diego plays right now that I could feel good about. So tonight, I'll give you an example. Michael King on the mound tonight. All right, I should feel pretty good about that. Michael King, who I would argue if it wasn't him, you could have gone either way. Pivetta could have started out the season. He's your ace. Michael King could have started out the season. He's your ace. Let me give you Michael King's last couple of starts. And the only reason why I want to, mention this because I think it's important. Michael King had a start against, really, I could look at 2 straight starts that he had where he was just phenomenal. Let me give you an idea of his last handful of starts here, but what's a little bit concerning to me, and not that I'm overly concerned about Michael King, is just the Padres need a W so bad. They need to turn to Michael King to obviously make that happen. Padres had a game in Milwaukee. If you guys remember, this only game they won in that series. He went 5 2/3, gave up 1 run. They had a game against the Dodgers here at Petco Park to start that 3-game set. He was phenomenal, just as good as can be. Him and Yamamoto were going pitch against each other, and it just came down to 1 solo shot. And Michael King, 7 innings against the Los Angeles Dodgers and didn't give up a run. His last 2 starts is not Michael King. So the loss against the A's, Padres lost 5-2. He went 3 2/3, gave up 4 earned runs, had 4 walks, by the way, in that game as well. And then against the Nationals, I think that was on Saturday night. That's the game that Tatis hits his home run that we're celebrating as if Tatis hit his 43rd home run of the season. Michael King pitches 6 innings, and in that 6th inning, it just completely blew up on him. Ends up giving up 5 earned runs, and Padres get that loss as well. So 9-4. So the last two starts for Michael King has not been Michael King, and it's so important for the Padres if they are going to get back on track. They need Michael King to be who Michael King is. We all know what a stud he is. We know how good of a player he is, and yes, I could sit here and I could tell you, oh well, the Padres have kind of put themselves in a position where the offense is so bad that there's no margin for error. And you know what? This is not on the bullpen, or this is not on this starter or Walker Buehler or something like that, but not Michael King. And these last 2 starts, that's not going to get it done for Michael King. So I'm looking forward to these next 3 games against the New York Mets. I'm looking forward to Michael King trying to get the Padres just out of this slump. But it's not just about the Padres getting out of a slump. I think it's also, part of this is also Michael King. Right? Like I think there's a piece of this where it's obviously going to fall so much on Michael King as well to help the Padres get out of the mix here. All right, couple other things that we're going to point out here, and like I mentioned, Bob Nightengale is going to come up, MLB columnist for USA Today. He's going to join us here coming up in about 6 or 7 minutes or so. So I've seen this conversation a lot, especially over this short period of time. But I've seen a lot of the conversation about should the Padres start selling. Brent, I don't know if you've been kind of seeing this. You see it on the text line a little bit. You see it in the YouTube chat. I'm sure some callers out there will give their opinion on some of this stuff as well. Is it just me? Am I on an island here that why are we having this early of a conversation about should the Padres start selling? Like it seems to me wildly premature to have that conversation about the Padres should now kind of start. And by the way, I think what's also premature is being a buyer. Like I think on both sides of it, can you really make a determination right now this early in the season based off of what we've seen that, yeah, 100% the Padres should be buying or 100% the Padres should be selling? Does that sound a little early to you?
I don't know. I think a lot of people have seen enough of their offense or lack thereof that it isn't really filling them full of confidence. And, Manny and them said yesterday, so specifically Manny, that, we'll get it worked out. We'll figure it out. But they've been saying that for like 3 seasons and they still haven't figured it out. So to a certain portion of the fan base, they've seen enough.
Let me kind of play this out. And listen, it could happen either way. We've seen the Chicago Cubs this year have 2 10-game winning streaks. Is that what it was? And then 1 10-game losing streak. Listen, that's extreme. It's very extreme. And by the way, going 1-9 in your last 10 doesn't exactly, obviously scream a ton of confidence. But can you really just kind of go? I think this is the piece that I sit on. Now's not the time to say that whether the Padres should be buyers or sellers, in my opinion, on June 5th, when you're still 3 games over 500. Now, are there a lot of things you don't like about the Padres right now? Are there a lot of their offense is clearly the worst in baseball? You got a lot of big time contracts that are doing nothing. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a lot of antennas going up of people or ring the alarm where everybody's like, hey, I'm worried about what's happening. But isn't this a more appropriate conversation by the All-Star break? All-Star break is mid-July. Like, I just don't – I have a difficult time having the conversation of either way. I know I've said this 3 days in a row about the Tarik Skubal, and that has nothing – I'm not even bringing that up. I'm just bringing up some of these the Jeff Passons, go down the list of some of these other people that have brought this up as far as the conversation goes. But I don't think we should be talking about the Padres being buyers right now. I don't think we should be talking about the Padres being sellers right now. I think we have to watch and see is if this team, as it is, can find a way to turn things around. If those bats through the first 2 months of the season were just awful for 2 months and they're going to turn around or not, got about a month and a half to figure out, I think, whether the Padres should be buyers or sellers. We'll continue that conversation because I'm sure there's plenty of conversation from others that we can have as well. Bob Nightengale, who's a MLB columnist for USA Today, he's going to join the show. We'll get his thoughts on what he's seen from San Diego so far, the labor union conversations, and a whole lot of other things in regards to baseball. Stay right here. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. I'm Alan Sliwa, Schaefer and Sliwa, San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, welcome back to San Diego Sports 760. We're going to get Bob Nightengale on the show here in just a second. I want to give everyone a quick reminder. We're going to be giving away a 4-pack of tickets to the San Diego County Fair, so just keep that in mind. I'm going to use the talkback today as well, and I've mentioned this before, how we're going to use the talkback. So here's what you're doing. I'm going to throw a question out to everybody. Love doing this. It's a great way for us to get listeners' opinions on certain topics. You're going to download the iHeartRadio app. You're going to click on San Diego Sports 760 or search San Diego Sports 760. There's a little red microphone in the upper right-hand corner. And you get up to 30 seconds to give your opinion and your thoughts. Here's the topic for today. I want to get people's thoughts on Craig Stammen so far. I don't think we've talked all that much about Stammen. And one of my concerns with getting a first-year manager is a first-year manager for a team that's trying to win right now. So, again, let's do that talk back. Let's use the talk back. The conversation and the question is about Craig Stammen. Just your general thoughts so far, what you like, what you don't like, and if you got concerns there. Let's welcome in Bob Nightengale, who's nice enough to take some time here, MLB columnist for USA Today. Bob, what's going on? Thank you for coming on.
Sure, my pleasure.
All right, so let's start here. I'd love to. I always want to get maybe somebody that's not watching the San Diego Padres as close as I am, or I have to yap about them for 3 hours a day. From your perspective, you look at San Diego. You know what the payroll is. You know that they have expectations. You know what they did at the trade deadline last year. How aggressive they were. They've lost 9 of their last 10 games, and I think they even have the run differential is a -10 or something along those lines. They're still 3 games over 500. What are your initial thoughts of the Padres so far this season?
Well, and originally when they were playing so well, it's like, okay, they're not that good. They're playing way over their head because they're not playing over their head, but lucky. There was a lot of 1-run wins, everything else. Like, how long can this last? And, sure enough, it hasn't lasted. You got to hit. The pitching, that was a big concern. With the starting rotation, wasn't so much the offense. And now it's the offense. People talking about, well, man, you get Tarik Skubal. Well, that's, Skubal's not going to be the Padres DH. Just the offense has been a bitter disappointment. Nobody thought it would be this bad.
Yeah, you're right. Skubal, maybe they can ask him to DH a little bit if they can find a way to bring him over here. Well, Bob, let's stay on that offense for a quick second. How do baseball people feel about the names? You got Manny Machado. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. You got Fernando Tatis is only 27 years old. I don't know what to tell you there. He hit a home run on Saturday. You would have thought that we won a World Series out here. That's how long his drought has gone. The Xander Bogart situation as far as his age. Jackson Merrill, of course, up and coming and a youngster. But how concerned are you that these bats are the bats that they are, or optimistic that they're going to be able to turn it around?
Well, you thought eventually, Machado would start showing his age and Bogarts, but not this early, particularly on Machado. I think you're seeing a new hitting guy, and just it hasn't worked. There's no way he should be performing, this poorly. And when you're making this kind of money, if you have a couple of guys, doing this bad, it just brings down the whole team. And they need those guys to step it up, and take the pressure off those guys. And now it's like the bench guys that out there trying to lift up, the superstars. It's not like you can shake it up. Machado's not going anywhere. Bogarts isn't going anywhere. Tatis is almost unmovable contracts. And you think, Jackson Merrill will, bounce back here at some point. But no, it's a concern. But, it's like, eventually, I'm not saying it's that, the hitting coach's fault or something like that, but eventually something's got to change. You got to shake things up, just like in Philadelphia when they fired manager. It wasn't Rob Thompson's fault. It was a wake-up call. So you wonder here at some point if the Padres make a move on the coaching staff, not Stammen, not the manager, but some of the coaches.
Bob Nightengale, MLB columnist for USA Today, joining us here on the Schaefer and Sliwa Show. Bob, you mentioned Skubal, and I know this is just a conversation for everybody, and we'll put him to the side. But if you tell me how this typically works. The Padres are trying to win right now, and that doesn't mean that that's going to happen, and it doesn't mean that it's realistic. But if you're AJ Preller, how much do you look at, I guess, what's the time frame where you start making a determination? Is it by the All-Star game? Is it before? Is it after? Where you just start making a determination like, yeah, I'd like to invest more into this team, or I do not want to invest more in this team?
Well, pretty much, now it's like you want to invest. It's like, okay, you get some help earlier on. You still got, a month and a half before the trade deadline. If you're going to, dump guys, then you probably wait and say, okay, let me see the comeback. I'm talking about teams like the Giants and Tigers and, New York Mets. Realistically, they don't have a chance, but you probably want to wait. And, the phone calls start heating up in early July. We saw the CC Sabathia trade, 18 years ago now with the going to Milwaukee Brewers, and they started the trade deadline, and they got extra 5 starts out of it. So you'll start seeing some more phone calls take place, and maybe some a few scattered trades here before the All-Star game and get things going.
Bob, I know a lot of the conversation here, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. The labor discussions and the conversation about what baseball could potentially look like. You've written some great articles over these last couple of days in regards to MLB Players Union, the kind of looking at things from both sides. What do you make of the initial everyone playing a little bit of the PR battle and trying to kind of get their talking points in? What are some of the things that stood out to you so far?
Well, yeah, both are doing the PR tours right now, trying to get the fans behind them. And so we haven't seen it this aggressive in recent years as far as, doing PR type first. We'll see. It's just the salary cap itself. It's a cap on salaries. So I don't care if Major League Baseball says, hey, how about $1 billion cap? And every team's got to spend $500 million. I think the union would still shut it down. So just opposed to that concept. So we'll see what happens. Nothing's going to happen until they start talking seriously until November or so. Then the December 1st happens. We'll have a work stoppage, and then we'll see how long. I don't think it's going to last long, but talking to both sides, you do have a feeling that it's going to cost at least one paycheck to see if the players blink after missing a paycheck in early April, or if they don't blink. That would be the big litmus test, just that first missed check.
Bob, is this more of a conversation? Is most of this just coming up because of one team? And obviously I'm out here in San Diego. I want to see what's in the best interest of the sport. I do feel like it is the competitive balance is incredibly difficult. And let's not pretend that, money obviously doesn't help. And that's not to take anything away from the Dodgers. I think they're ran well. And I also think they're taking advantage of every possible advantage that they have. But is a lot of this conversation that we're having and potential work stoppage, is it all kind of built around the Dodgers, built around one team?
It is, and it shouldn't be. The Mets have a higher payroll than the Dodgers this year. The Mets have spent more money the last 5 years than the Dodgers have. Philly spent a lot of money. Yankees spent a lot of money. Boston. So, just because the Dodgers have won, and, the Dodgers should have got beat by the Padres 2 years ago, and they're down 2-1, and Dodgers are throwing a bullpen game in Game 4. They could easily got beat by the Phillies last year, should have got beat by the Blue Jays in the World Series. So, the strange part is if the Dodgers weren't winning, then, they wouldn't be the poster boys for this whole thing. So, is there a big advantage of having money? Yeah. But on the flip end, if you got a smart front office, you see what, the Milwaukee Brewers do year after year, Cleveland, Tampa Bay. So, it can be done. It's just a lot harder to do.
Okay, but Bob, can I jump in there? Because I think I'd love to I want to follow up on what you just said right there. I think you are 100% right that, yes, there's ways around it, but is that the system we want? Like, don't we want, when the dust settles, and you're not wrong. The Padres obviously had opportunities to beat the Dodgers. You're not wrong. Toronto should have beat the Dodgers, I thought, in Game 7. I think many people feel that way. But take deferrals, put deferrals into the mix, put the ability to kind of be very strategic with how you use your starters during the regular season so they're healthy till the end. Like, isn't there, wouldn't the system be healthier that when we do walk into when the season starts, that you're winning not primarily because of money, but you're also just winning because of your front office?
No, that would be nice to have that, to show that, and I think the Dodgers would actually welcome that. Like, okay, we'll show you we can still win with a payroll like everybody else, with our farms. Hey, we're drafting last or next to last every year. How come we're still getting better players than everybody else? That sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, that would, put everybody on equal footing and see what happens here. You're absolutely right. I mean, the one thing about when you have money, like the Dodgers, you can cover up mistakes. So when they went and got, Edwin Diaz, it was covering up a mistake by Tanner Scott. When they bring in different starters, cover up injuries to Blake Snell and Tyler Glass now. Where, if you don't have a big payroll like that, and you have a guy like, signing Snell to $108 million, only throws 64 innings, that can bury a team. But the Dodgers are able to shrug it off.
Well, we got some contracts down here in San Diego that might be hurting SD for some years to come. Bob, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on. I know you and I haven't connected in a while, but thank you for doing this and great insight as always.
All right, my pleasure as always. Thank you.
All right, that is Bob Nightengale, USA Today MLB columnist. No, I'm not forgetting. People has said in the chat, Al, you're forgetting how much the Padres have spent. Not forgetting, trust me. But there's a big difference between, they don't really have a plan B, a C, a D, and an E. And they're going to have to eat some of these contracts based on what's happened so far. All right, let's do this. When we come back, let's have a conversation about Craig Stammen. I really want to have a conversation about him. And you heard Bob Nightengale right there talking about there needs to be a change in San Diego, not your manager, but other changes. So we'll get into that topic when we come back. Stay right here. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. This is San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app. What's up, y'all? What's going on? All right. Let's read some of these comments here. See if we can star a couple of these that we can use for the show. What do we got here? We couldn't buy a championship, so we'll throw that one in the mix. Finally made it to the chat. Sup, folks? Thank you for being here. Appreciate you being here. The Dodgers dominated the sport, had to have a lockdown. What a flex. There's some truth to that. There's definitely some truth to that. Their saving grace is that the NL wildcard race is wide open. Lots of teams. This is a good one. I'll use that one as well. Okay. All right, we got this. Is Austin Reeves a max contract player? Hell no. You kidding me? Hell no. I do an NBA show in the mornings. And I had Bobby Marks on this morning. You guys can go back. Hoops Talk with Alan Slewa. Bobby Marks just straight up, he's like, nope, not a max. Of course he's not a max player. It's kind of absurd. Petco Park sold out tonight. That's amazing. The city is showing up. I mean, it's a great place to be. We just got to get the product better, Juan Soto in town, the Mets in town. That's a fun game. It's just the team's got to get better. Michael King, they need Michael King tonight. I'll tell you guys that right now. Michael King's got to be phenomenal tonight. All right. I'm going to go back. Thanks for being here, guys. Appreciate you guys.
This report is sponsored by Positive Coaching Alliance. The Padres and Mets are getting set for game one of their series tonight downtown at Petco Park. It's going to be Christian Scott going for the Mets and Michael King on the hill for the Friars. First pitch is set for 6:40. In NFL news, the Bears took a big step towards leaving Illinois today. Their board of directors voted to advance their stadium development in Hammond, Indiana, with no exact site still to be determined. This was the first time their board voted on any stadium site. And we got game 2 of the NBA Finals tonight in San Antonio when the Knicks take on the Spurs. They will tip that off after 5:30. If you have questions about youth or high school sports, Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA builds better athletes and better people through sports. Info at positivecoach.org.
All right, America is turning 250, and San Diego Sports 760 is celebrating with $250,000 in cash. Listen for your chance to win $2,500 so you can take the ultimate American getaway and visit the state, cities, landmarks, and national parks that make our country amazing. With your share of $250,000, just listen for the keyword, then enter it at sportssd.com. Your next chance to win is coming up after 5 p.m. on San Diego Sports 760. Okay, a couple things here to do, and I'm going to read a couple of these comments, having the conversation. Shout out to Bob Nightengale for taking some time here and joining us on the show. I'll throw this question out, and we're going to use the talk back for this one. We got a couple here that we can play. Best one that we get today, we're going to be giving away the 4-pack of tickets to the San Diego County Fair. Here's the question. What's everyone's thoughts on Craig Stammen so far? Give me the positives. Give me the negatives. How much of the losing 9 of 10 is on his shoulders? How much of the offense? How much of the vibe of the team? How much of the stars? How much is on Craig Stammen? I think that's a fair question. Here's how we're going to do this. Download the iHeartRadio app. Click San Diego Sports 760, that little red microphone in the upper right-hand corner. You got 30 seconds to tell us how you feel. Brent, let's play the one that we got here. What do you got there?
Stammen's doing a fine job. He's just been saddled with basically essentially the same team that the Padres have had for 3 years. And they struggle with the same problems they've struggled with for 3 years. And it's horrible contracts thanks to Preller. The second longest tenured GM in the league, and I don't know why when you look at his resume. Horrible contracts, pedestrian offense. What's Stammen supposed to do? The same issues they've had for 3 years.
All right, there's one talk back right there. We're going to sprinkle those in throughout the show, by the way. If you were out driving around too, you can always call in 877-767-4760. 877-767-4760. Let me give kind of my thoughts on Stammen here real quick. And you know, it's kind of been an interesting conversation with him. When the season started, I panicked when they started out 2-5. And I remember doing the shows. The first week I was doing the show was the first week the Padres were starting their season. Maybe there were a few games in, and John and I start doing the show together. And for me, I think the thing that stuck out most, and my concern with Stammen was, man, this is a team trying to win right now today. They obviously got some big time players that are a part of the organization. They made the playoffs 2 years in a row. Mike Schilt leads them to 2 90-plus win seasons. That's going to be a lot of pressure on Craig Stammen. That's going to be a lot of pressure on any manager that's taking over a role like Stammen is with the San Diego Padres. That was a concern. Of course it was. Craig Stammen hasn't gone through this. Okay, he's gone through this playoff run and that playoff run, and he's gone through this bad season. And this year they had expectations, but they ended up 10 games below 500. And this year, no one had any expectations, and they ended up 10 games over 500. The experience part, of course, is what we were all fearing. Season starts. Padres start playing some good baseball. All of a sudden, they're finding ways to win. All right, is this real? Is it not real? What's going on with their offense? This is a little bit odd. How do you have so many players that are struggling? Craig Stammen kind of has a similar positive message. And I always hear people making these comparisons, one way or the other. And typically the comparisons, they go from very naturally, right? The Mike Schilt conversation. I always hear John and a lot of other people in the media how Mike Schilt, the Padres could have a terrible game and Mike Schilt's going to tell you that they're just right there. And Mike Schilt can tell you, and in a sense, he was BSing. Probably the audience and the media knew he was BSing them, but I get what he was doing. He was a player's manager. Yeah, I got my players back. And I'm sure the conversation that he really wanted to have with them, he'd have it behind the scenes, and he just didn't need to share it with me or with you or the audience or the fan base. Now, maybe that annoys people. Maybe people are like, you're lying through your teeth. But here's how I determine whether he was the right manager or he wasn't for the San Diego Padres. And this is how Craig Stammen's going to be, how we're going to determine whether he's the right manager for the Padres or not. As simple as this. Are you winning or are you not? That's it. That's how everybody is judged. Are you winning or are you not? You could have loved Mike Schilt. You could have hated Mike Schilt. But I know what you did love. You loved that he took you to the postseason 2 years in a row. And Craig Stammen, as we kind of sit here today, I'm not really 100% sure how to judge him. I know that he's a first-time manager and he's a part of an organization that needs to win today. They got contracts that say they got to win today. They're clearly trying to win today. That's a lot for a manager that's never done this before. That's part of the concerns. And Brett, you were around for the Mike Schilt era. Obviously, you're around for some of the other managers that have been a part of the Padres. That was my one concern walking into this season. The one concern that I think everybody had, it's like the dude's walking into a situation where they got to get results now, and he doesn't have this. He only knows what he knows.
I think one of the big differences between Schilty and Stammen is Stammen doesn't really sugarcoat stuff as much. He likes to stay positive, but if they play bad, he owns it. One of my big things I always bring up with Schilt was they had that game against the Rockies where they blew I don't remember. I want to say they were up by 7 or 8 or something like that in the late innings, and they blew it. The first question you're going to get from the media,
what happened?
What the hell happened?
Sure.
He knew that was going to be the first question.
What was his answer?
For 20 minutes. He blew up, and he got all pissed off and offended at the question. And that would happen routinely.
Sure.
To where they would blow a game or something, and everyone and their mother knew what the first question was going to be. But as soon as you would ask it, he would just throw a conniption fit about it.
Well, here's the funny thing. And again, I'm not sitting here trying to tell you that Craig Stammen needs to go, because honestly, I think it's absurd if anybody thinks that. I don't think he needs to go.
It's way too early for that.
And yeah, that's not a conversation I would entertain. I wouldn't entertain it at any point this season. I really wouldn't. I would not entertain it. Part of the reason is because AJ Preller is the one that signed him. AJ Preller is the one that brought him in. AJ Preller understands the situation in San Diego, and that every single day that window could be closing more and more. By the way, that window could have already closed. Is anybody surprised at the best days under the Tatis, Machado, I don't know, Jackson, or not Jackson Merrill, Joe Musgrove, Michael King? Is anybody surprised if that window is behind the Padres? I don't think, obviously nobody's going to be surprised about that. But that's on AJ Preller. When you're bringing in a manager under these circumstances, that's my only thing. My only hesitation with Craig Stammen was this guy has not been through the gauntlet yet as a manager. I get it. He's been there as a pitcher or as a player. And of course, somebody that has been a part of the Padres organization as well. But as a manager, that doesn't really matter. There's certain things he could take away from a player perspective. I think the biggest question, or the bigger question, and this one I think is more legit. Bob Nightengale said, at some point you got to make a change because of what's happening offensively. That's a real question for me. It is. And I know some people want to say, well, Al, it's not, Steven Souza doesn't hit for the San Diego Padres. Yeah, you're 100% right about that. But have you seen how atrocious the entire offense is? This isn't one or two players. This is the entire squad. that conversation I'm happy to have. I don't want to have the conversation about Craig Stammen specifically, but I think the conversation about, do you make a change with what's going on with your hitting coach because of how bad the offense is? That I think is a more fair conversation. Okay, when we come back, I got a lot of comments here that I want to read. We'll continue this conversation. I do want to start getting a little bit into the NBA Finals, so we're going to do that at one point. I'm also, Brent, at some point during the show, maybe we do this during the wrap. Juan Soto and the New York Mets are in town, and you told me something yesterday that I don't think I was overly surprised or shocked about, but I'm still kind of trying to fully understand. Listen, I've had a mic here in San Diego for 2 months, so I have not got a chance to interact with listeners as much as many others that are at this radio station. But I asked you, I'm like, hey, how do Padre fans feel about Juan Soto? And you were kind of like, yeah, they're not crazy about him. I don't know if I fully understand it. So that's a conversation that we can have throughout the show as well. We do have a great person to have on the show. Keith Raad's going to come on. He's part of the Mets radio broadcast, so he'll come on and he'll break down this matchup against the New York Mets. Appreciate you guys being here. Stay right here. This is San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app.
All right, guys, it is Schaefer again for my friends at
I appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Schaefer and Sliwa Show. John Schaefer will be back with us starting on Monday. Talkback Mike. I mentioned this a couple different times. iHeartRadio app. Download the iHeartRadio app. Click San Diego Sports 760. That little red microphone in the upper right-hand corner. 30 seconds, your take on Craig Stammen. What do you think so far? What do you like? What do you dislike? How concerned are you? Is this on the manager? Is it on the players? You can give your opinions there, and we'll play some of these over the air. By the way, the best one that we get today, they're going to win a 4-pack of tickets to the San Diego County Fair. I got a couple of comments here on YouTube that I want to read in regards to Craig Stammen. All right, let's see what we got here. Can a guy like Stammen actually put his foot down and hold $300 million superstars accountable, or is he just too close to them to be the bad guy? That's a really good comment. That's a good comment here on YouTube. Appreciate Ken, you chiming in there, or Kent, I think. It's funny. There was a conversation that very, very early in the season, the Friar Territory podcast, obviously that's with Darren, that's with Marty. They had Heath Bell on. Heath Bell, of course, former player in the league, and he was giving a perspective, a player perspective, and it didn't sound like the whole buddy, yeah, but he's a good friend of Manny Machado's, and he knows a lot of these guys, and he's got relationships with them. Heath Bell, it stood out to me because in that podcast, it didn't sound like that would be a positive thing. And I don't know if that's what's happening inside the clubhouse. Obviously, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not privy to it. I'm not there every day. But I think there's a piece of this, and whatever happens behind closed doors is different than whatever we see within the media. But does Craig Stammen seem like the personality that's going to go throw a couple of things once he gets into the clubhouse, and he's going to go challenge Fernando Tatis Jr. of why you're doing this and why you're not doing that? And is going to go to Manny Machado and he's going to curse him out or something? Probably not. I mean, I don't see that. And I'm not telling you that that's what he needs to do in order to have success. But what would be nice is I think some of the people that have had the most success in any type of managerial role, you're able to put those personalities to the side, those relationships to the side. And, obviously we'll see if things turn around for the Padres. And is that more a Craig Stammen thing, or is it something else? Let's get another one here. Stammen might be one and done, not even back in the front office. Okay, let's get another one in here. Stammen post-game press conferences have started to show major signs of no accountability for the players. Thus, I'm beginning to lose respect for Stammen. Brent, it's as simple as this, brother. When you're winning, everybody loves you. You're making it happen. You can't make a mistake. When you're losing games, I'm going to say this. I think it would be absurd to say, hey, Stammen's not the right manager for the Padres a couple of months in. I wouldn't say that, nor would I say it the entire year. And if he wasn't the right manager, I would look more at AJ Preller than I would at Craig Stammen.
We do have some breaking Padres news, Alan.
Okay, what do we got?
Per friend of the show, Annie Halbrin of the San Diego Union Tribune, Padres outfielder Ramon Laureano has undergone right hip surgery and is most likely done for the season, as he will require 4 to 5 months of recovery.
That's a tough one. All these are, I mean, I almost don't even have a reaction to that. It's almost as if, it's just, of course. I feel bad for Laureano. Maybe that explains why he got off to such a good start and then has really, really been struggling now for about a month and some change. So Ramon Laureano, Annie Halbrin, who was, obviously on 760 all the time, but she was on the show yesterday reporting that Ramon Laureano could potentially be out for the remainder of the year. That's a tough one. I remember when the season had just started, we were starting to look at the lineup, and it's like, man, I like the depth of this lineup. And remember last season, 7, 8, 9 was like this crater, but now you have Fermin in there, and you got Cronenworth in there, and Laureano got off to a good start, and you were putting up Andujar, and you were looking at Gavin Sheets and Ty France. You're like, man, I really like this lineup. And obviously that has not been the case moving forward. And that's tough news for Ramon Laureano. more even just for him personally. I think he's on the final year of his contract. I think this is the final year of his contract. We could take a look at it. That's a tough one to swallow for Ramon Laureano, and it seems like it just keeps getting a little bit worse for the San Diego Padres. That's a tough one. That's definitely a tough one. Okay, I want to, one thing that I haven't done yet, we haven't talked too much, and I think we're going to get a little bit of a breakdown here, which will be helpful. So Keith Raad, who's part of the Mets radio broadcast, he's going to join us here in a few minutes, and he'll give us an idea. I always love to get, I mean, Mets, I've heard this, just the way they spend money, and obviously everyone knows Cohen, the owner of the New York Mets, and how do they feel about how Juan Soto is doing over there? Are the Mets going to figure out a way to get back into the hunt? So we'll spend a little bit of time getting a perspective of who the Padres are playing over this next 3-game set. And you just heard the breaking news that Ramon Laureano, Andy Halpern is reporting it, a part of UT San Diego, that Ramon Laureano is going to miss, did you say 4 to 5 months to recover?
Yes.
So there's a good chance that he could miss potentially the rest of the season for Ramon Laureano. It's getting a little tougher every single day for the San Diego Padres. Keith Raad coming up next. Stay right here. This is San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by the Mine Safety and Health Administration. Padres and Mets are getting set for game one of their series tonight down at Petco Park. It's going to be Christian Scott going for the Mets and Michael King on the hill for the Friars. First pitch is set for 6:40. In other Padres news, we just learned that Ramon Laureano is going to need hip surgery and is most likely going to be out for the rest of the year, per Annie Halbrin from the UT. In NFL news, the Bears took a big leap towards leaving Illinois today. Their board of directors voted to advance their stadium development in Hammond, Indiana. This is the first time the Bears board voted on any stadium site. And tonight we got game 2 in San Antonio of the NBA Finals with Knicks and Spurs. They're going to tip off after 5:30. This is an important message from the Mine Safety and Health Administration. Mining facilities, accidents, and injuries are preventable. Staying alert and focused can keep you safe. Take time, save lives. For more resources, visit msa.gov.
Welcome back to hour number 2, San Diego Sports 760. The San Diego Padres trying to get back on the winning track. They're taking on the New York Mets, 3-game set at Petco Park. First pitch is at 6:40. Michael King versus Christian Scott of the New York Mets. I want to welcome in. Very nice to take some time here and join us on the broadcast. Keith Raad, who is part of the play-by-play broadcast of the Mets radio network on Odyssey. Keith, what's going on? Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely, guys. How you doing?
Doing good. All right. Let me start with this here. We are having some of our own headaches here in San Diego, California with our team. I know the Mets, obviously a big conversation all season, just around all of baseball. Can you give us an idea? The Mets in at 27-35. What's been the story in New York, and how are the Mets 8 games below 500? What's happened?
Yeah, here we are again, kind of in a what's going on with the Mets. We've had to answer this question a lot for the last few seasons now, but really the story for the Mets has been poor performance, bad start. There was a 12-game losing streak in there in April, which was just kind of stunning to watch every single day. And then little by little, the injuries started to pile up with Francisco Lindor going down and Jorge Polanco, Luis Robert Jr. Guys you started to count on for a new look Mets team with some familiar faces gone. And so you go poor performance to hurt, really bad combination. And so the Mets they showed a little bit of life there in May and hoping that as the season goes on, there's enough time to make a run at maybe wild card 3. That's kind of where they are right now. When they're at their best, what's clicking? When they struggle, what do you notice the most? I think for a lot of Padre fans who, obviously series to series, we saw the Phillies for, I think, 6 of the last 9 games. So I think we feel like we know the Phillies really well. When the Mets are at their best, what's it look like? Yeah, so they're pitching well. Bullpen has been solid, and they've won. The games that they've won have been a lot of these kind of 3-1. 4-3, pitch well, hold tight. Because truly, I'd love to tell you that the Mets, when they scored 10 runs, they look great. There just have not been many of those days. And the funny part about getting ready for this Padres series is just getting, writing in some notes about, okay, where do the Mets rank in their offensive categories? And I go, wait a minute, they're not 30th in these categories anymore. Oh, yeah. It's because the Padres are 30th in all of them now. So the Mets were 30th for a lot of the year and, average, couldn't slug the ball, those kind of things. And now they are second worst to the San Diego Padres. So if the Mets hit at all, kind of like the way Padres fans, I'm sure, feel about their team, especially with their bullpen, if you hit a little bit, give us 4 or 5 runs, then you feel good about your chances. But there have been very few games like that. Keith Raad, part of the Mets radio broadcast, nice enough to join us here on San Diego Sports 760. Keith, how surprised are you when you do look and you're obviously doing your homework, getting ready for the game tonight and get ready for this 3-game set? Like you said, you saw where the Mets are offensively. It's like, hey, they're not at the bottom. Here are the Padres. And you start looking at some of the big names, the Tatisas of the world, the Machados. I know Xander Bogaerts has never really been the player that they signed, and his best days were with the Boston Red Sox. How surprised are you seeing just how much
those three individual players are struggling offensively, specifically the main two, which is Machado and Tatis.
Yeah, I mean, stunned is a good word for it. Surprise is solid too. I mean, these are guys that, I mean, even I remember just sitting back and kicking my feet up watching the WBC, watching Tatis going, this is the most electric player in the game. Like just how impactful he can be. And the fact that he's had now just recently one home run. I mean, that is nothing that anybody in baseball would have expected. It's a shame too, because these names are good. It's not just good names, guys that are all at the end of their career. Yeah, Manny's played forever, but it's not the end of his career where he's just running out of gas. And the numbers they're putting up right now kind of show you that. The fact that Merrill is not hitting either is kind of stunning too. But I say that all from also somebody who's watched for the last 2 months. Good name guys on the Mets side also struggle. I mean, even going back to last year, guys like Alonso and Nimmo also struggle. So I've seen plenty of it lately. It's been inexplicable then, and it's certainly inexplicable right now for the Padres.
There is in our studio here, I don't even know if Padre fans will like it or they won't like it, but we got all these bobbleheads, and one of them's got Juan Soto, right? Obviously, his short tenure with the San Diego Padres. How is Soto doing? I know at the time when it happened, and it's Yankees versus the Mets, and who's going to win the sweepstakes for Juan Soto, and it seemed like Steve Cohen, the owner of the New York Mets, would not allow him to go back to the Yankees. How has he done? How do people view him in New York? Is he getting the job done? I know that contract's a lot to live up to. How has Soto done in New York?
Yeah, so this is season 2, and season 1, there were some growing pains in the very beginning of the year, big spots. You can tell that he was getting off to just a slower start in big moments where look at the season-ending numbers where I think 43 homers, almost steals 40 bags. Like the numbers at the end of the year were there. First 2 months, guys on base, men in scoring positions, those money-making at-bats where everyone's on the edge of their seat. He wasn't coming through in those situations until kind of the very end of the year. And then we were wondering, what's the body language like? What's his relationship like with Lindor? Does he like being here? Did he make, all these topics would float up. But this season, we have seen publicly, and this is what the Mets personnel tells us, is that he was always like this behind the scenes, but now we're seeing it publicly where he is having a ball. He's hitting incredibly well. We were seeing him take over weak stretches, which you need him to do. And that it's been really fun. You can tell he's comfortable, he's happy. And it also has to do with who else is on the team. There's 2 young guys that the Mets will show San Diego Padres fans this weekend, Carson Bench and AJ Ewing, 2 young ball player type outfielders that Soto's out there with, that he just loves to mess around with those guys. So there's been he's been much more relaxed this year, much more comfortable. And he has also had a calf injury, so he's missed about 3 weeks. So maybe not qualifying for all these leaderboards yet, but he's hitting close to 300. He's hit 13 bombs. He hasn't really missed a beat this year offensively. He's been great.
Keith Raad, Odyssey Mets Radio, joining us here on San Diego Sports 760. Keith, we had Bob Nightengale on about, let's say, a little bit less than an hour ago, and we're talking about, obviously, the labor conversations, and here's the players, their side, and they don't want a salary cap, and the union, or I'm sorry, the owners, they're fighting for a salary cap. I'm so curious to get what is the New York market? How do they look at in San Diego? We just look 2 hours up, and everybody I think is chasing the Los Angeles Dodgers, and everybody knows that, right? And that's a combination of things. It's a combination of their resources, they're ran well, they have endless amount of money. There's deferrals. Again, the great farm system. Like you go up and down the list. I mean, they dot every I and they cross every T. What does New York want to see? And clearly the Mets are one of the teams that spend, if not the most, a lot, as is the Yankees and as is some of these other big market teams. Does New York want to see a salary cap, or do they like the way the system is as is?
Well, I think from a New York perspective, it's always the biggest, brightest stars, and whatever it takes to spend for them, you get them. And that's kind of the name of the game. And we're seeing it very uniquely with the Mets too, is that Steve Cohen takes over, a couple of years ago, this is year 5 of his tenure, takes over and he wants to make a huge splash. So he goes out and signs Lindor to a huge deal and then gets Juan Soto, the big fish. And all of a sudden the Mets are one of the top spenders in baseball. The only problem is that while for the Dodgers and even for the Padres and the Yankees is that those dollars have equaled wins. For the Mets, it hasn't really done that yet. So even though it is all about big, bright stars, the Mets fans at least want to see wins, and the Yankee fans are the same way in that regard. And usually it is the best New Yorker is the one calling up to WFAN in New York and saying, Hal's got to spend this, Steve Cohen's got to spend that. I mean, that's just expected. So I don't think that the salary cap, I don't think the fan would totally be shocked by what would happen from that point on, but it would certainly make it more creative to try to win within the framework of that, because, the Knicks fans right now, they're going crazy. They don't care about the salary cap. They're in the finals. Same with the Giants and the Jets when we talk about other sports. But I don't know. It's New York is a baseball town, so it would definitely be a change. But I don't know. I don't know if fans really thought about it enough to think, well, this could really change how the business is done. It'd be a very, very interesting conversation. But they still would say, figure out how to get me, the biggest and brightest stars in the game.
Well, it's funny because, and I mean this with no disrespect, but a lot of the time I have the conversation of like, yeah, but look at the Mets, they spend, and it's not equal to winning. And in my head, I think it obviously goes a lot deeper than that. One or two players is not going to be the difference of winning a World Series or not. Okay, final one I got for you, Keith, and I appreciate the time as always. You did mention the Knicks. What do you think? What do you think of the NBA Finals tonight? Do the Knicks go up 2-0 or is Spurs tie this thing up?
I tell you what, if I'm anybody right now, how do you bet against the Knicks? The Knicks they're so good. I mean, when they came out of the East, they were destroying teams in the East. It wasn't something to sneak by and grab a bucket or two. And then the fact that they did the same thing kind of to the Spurs that they did to Cleveland in Game 1, which was a slow start, strong finish, and Cleveland, the Cavs could never recover from that. So I wonder, Spurs coming off 7-game series like the Cavs did against the Knicks last time. Knicks are rested. They have that look on their face.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's hard to bet against the Knicks right now. You got to love it.
It's going to be interesting. Madison Square Garden on Monday night. What the hell that place is going to look like? Well, Keith, I appreciate the time. Thank you very much for coming on. It's very nice of you to do so, and really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. San Diego is the best city in the league. Thank you so much. I
appreciate it, man. Thank you. All right. That is Keith Raad, Odyssey Mets Radio. What I want on top of him saying that San Diego is the best city in the league, I also want him to say that San Diego's got one of the best chances of winning a Super Bowl. Who cares about the weather? Who cares how beautiful the city is? We know that. We've grew up in it. We know that comes with the territory. What San Diego doesn't have under its belt is a World Series or really a championship under any regard. All right, we got the wrap coming up next. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Just a quick reminder here, Brad Turner is going to join the show a little bit later at 5 o'clock. We're going to talk, obviously talk about the NBA Finals. And then Kevin Acee at 5:30. Stay right here. This is San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, welcome back to San Diego Sports 760. Hope everybody's enjoying their Friday. You know what I'm so sick of hearing? I mean, the guy gave such a nice compliment to the city of San Diego. Such a nice compliment. Keith Raad, part of Mets Radio. What a nice guy, right? Part of the Mets Radio broadcast says, you guys have the best city in all of baseball. I get that. I appreciate it. But you know what San Diego does not freaking have is a chip. We don't have a championship. You know what I want people in New York to say one of these days, or in Boston or Chicago or in LA or in St. Louis, or name any freaking baseball city out there? Damn, SD is that's one of the best cities when it comes to baseball winning. Now, listen, of course, the Padres are much more respectable than they used to be. They've gone through a stretch where they've made the postseason 4 of the last 6 years. But why do I take when somebody wants to just say a nice compliment about San Diego? I'm like, well, you know what? I don't want to hear that anymore. I don't want to hear that the city is great and the ballpark is beautiful. And I don't care about that anymore. I just want to hear that the San Diego Padres got a legitimate chance of winning a World Series, and that's all that matters. All right, San Diego Sports 760, your home for live coverage of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Get daily match updates from the opening match June 11th to the final July 1st. Hear live play-by-play of the most anticipated games in every USA match, the excitement of the World Cup, all in one place, San Diego Sports 760. We got a game we're airing tomorrow as well, so just a heads up on that, USA versus Germany. Our coverage is going to start at 11:15. Let's get to the wrap.
It's time for the wrap. Presented by Sombrero Mexican Food. Check out their website at sombreromex.com.
Do the Spurs tie up the series tonight?
Oh, do the Spurs tie up the series tonight? Can I ask you that question first? What do you think?
I think yes, just because I don't think they've lost back-to-back. Have they lost back-to-back games in the playoffs this year?
Yeah, they did. They did to OKC, because I think they take game 1 from OKC, and then they lost, I want to say, 2 and 3.
Okay, so yeah,
but this is
happen often.
But it's desperation, because at least when they lost 2 and 3, well, you still had the next game at home. You're not going down 0-2, or they didn't lose the first 2 games of the series at home. I think this is complete desperation, and it's interesting. I think I'm going to find out a lot. I mean, there's a lot I want to get into in regards to the NBA Finals, but I think we're going to find out a lot about the San Antonio Spurs tonight. We're going to find out, is this team here to stay, or, is this going to be a dogfight, or is it not? Is it just going to be as simple as that? I say they tie the series 1 apiece by the time tonight's all said and done.
Who's more crucial for their team tonight, Jalen Brunson or Wemby?
Oh, that's a good question. Who's more crucial for their team? I think Wemby, but I don't. That's a tough one to answer. Jalen Brunson's so important to them. He's obviously was such a stud and such a closer for them. What makes Jalen Brunson so unique? He can take over a game with 6 minutes left to go. I mean, obviously Wemby can as well, but Wemby's only 22 years old. I think Wemby has a dominant performance. I think the San Antonio Spurs win the game. So I'll say more crucial tonight is Wemby than Jalen Brunson.
It has to be Wemby, because
has to be, right?
The Spurs rely on him offensively and defensively.
Yeah.
The Knicks, that's not a knock, but Brunson doesn't really play the best defense, so the Knicks aren't really relying on him to go out there and play lock on perimeter D. He's out there to score points, but the Spurs are relying on Wemby on more than one front.
Would you agree with this? Even we could sit here and we could say that they're going to rely more on Wemby. Wemby's got to get help. That first game, I mean, De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle, Devin Vassell, go down the list. Other than maybe Dylan Harper, I don't really feel like he got much help. And you are right. He's doing so much on one side of the floor. Then he's got to come down here, and he almost single-handedly brought them back in that fourth quarter. They were down 8. They took a 1-point lead. Brunson got that tip out or whatever and hit a 3. He's amazing, but you can't win championships clearly by yourself. He needs some help.
Do you think Padres fans should boo Juan Soto?
Give me the background here. Help me out, because I'm gonna give you my version of Juan Soto. and this actually isn't a terrible topic that we can get into. I mean, I want to do NBA final stuff too, but here's how I look at Juan Soto. Padres obviously traded for one of the best in the business. They were going all in. They were trying to win a World Series. The thing I remember most about Juan Soto's time in San Diego was after they traded for him, they thought Tatis was coming back for that season. Tatis isn't there for them. He gets suspended. The PEDs, we obviously know what happens. He eventually leaves. Why are they upset at Soto? Help me understand why Padre fans are upset with Juan Soto.
Because lots of them didn't think he played well when he played in San Diego.
Was he terrible?
No, but by their standards, he was.
Okay,
because
so
they said he walked too much. They were expecting him to get like clutch hits and stuff like that, and he didn't get clutch hits. He didn't hit enough home runs for them. There's a lot of stuff that they didn't like. He got a lot of the same criticisms that they give to Manny and them about how
are they booing Machado when he comes up to the plate? Start booing Machado then, because that dude's batting 172 or wherever he is. Start booing Fernando Tatis Jr. because last I checked, he has 1 home run this season. You know who they should be booing if they want to boo anybody tonight? Why don't you boo Xander Bogaerts that has played nowhere near his contract so far, and we know how many years are left on his contract. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I'm shifting my energy not to Juan Soto. I don't know if you agree with this or not, and maybe there's nothing here. Maybe there's nothing at all, but let me just use Soto as an example. If I'm another star player and I see Padre fans booing Soto and I don't really kind of feel like what the angle is, I don't know. I don't think that's a good look. I don't think that's a good look for us. I don't. Maybe I'm on an island on this one, but there are plenty of people they could be booing over this 3-game set. None of them are wearing a Mets jersey. They're all wearing Padre jerseys.
Yeah, but they didn't trade half the farm system for Manny Machado and for Tatis. That's also part of the deal.
Excellent point. So should they boo AJ Preller?
They do. If AJ Preller would get announced at Padres games more often, he probably would get some boos.
I think it would be an interesting conversation because I think Preller has done 2 things. He's mortgaged everything you got, and he's also gave you the most success that you've ever had in your franchise history over a 6-year run. It's a good conversation right there. All right, let's go. What's the last one you got there?
Will the Padres be better than 500 on their homestand? They got 3 against the Metropolitans and 3 against the Reds.
Here's why I'm going to say no. Because I've just watched the Padres lose 9 of 10 games. So how am I going to make a case that this is the series that they're going to go 4-2, that they'll take 2 or 3 from the Mets and 2 or 3 from the Reds? Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't think I have the ability to have that blind faith here. I'm going to say no. They're probably going to go 3-3 over their next 6 games. And if they went 3-3 over those next 6 games, it would actually be a pretty good record based off of how they've been playing. Now, we know the Mets are 8 games over 500. I think the Reds, I saw maybe 1 or 2 games over 500. And the NL it's one of the maybe positives right now for the Padres after, let's call it, the Braves, the Dodgers, and the Brewers. The NL is kind of right? Like nothing special. Now, maybe some of these teams get a lot better, but the Padres are kind of stuck into that mix there.
Well, they're going to get a little lucky too because Ellie De La Cruz is on the IL, so we won't have to worry about him when they play the Reds, and arguably he's their best player. So they lucked out on that front. So I don't know. I think they can go 500. It's one of these I kind of brought up yesterday. Whenever we think they can't do something and we're convinced that, some team's going to come in and just walk over them,
sure.
We're convinced that, this team sucks. We got it all under control. They do the opposite of whatever we think. So if you don't think they're going to go 500, they'll probably go 6-0.
You're right. Maybe they do. Okay, let's do a couple things here. I got a couple of comments people had on the Juan Soto stuff. People can educate me a little bit on how they feel about Juan Soto. You could do that one of 2 ways. You can call 877-767-4760. You can hit us up on YouTube. Actually, you can do it one of 3 ways, or you can also hit us. We had the Craig Stammen conversation a little bit earlier. Let's change that up. Do Padre fans still boo Juan Soto? Is there a reason why you do boo Juan Soto? You can give me a reason why. iHeartRadio app, download the iHeartRadio app, click San Diego Sports 760. that little red microphone in the upper right-hand corner. Are you still booing Juan Soto? And if so, why are you? You got a chance to win 4-pack of tickets to the San Diego County Fair. Get those talkbacks in. Stay right here. This is San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by the Palm Springs Aerial Tramway. The Padres and Mets are getting set for game 1 of their series tonight downtown at Petco Park. It's going to be Christian Scott going for New York and Michael King going for the Friars. First pitch is set for 6:40. In other Padres news, Ramon Laureano is going to be had hip surgery today, and he is most likely going to be out for the rest of the year. In NFL news, the Bears took a big step towards leaving Illinois today. Their board of directors voted to advance their stadium development in Hammond, Indiana. This is the first time the Bears board has voted on any stadium site. And tonight we got game 2 of the NBA Finals in San Antonio when the Knicks take on the Spurs. That will tip off a little bit after 5:30. Palm Springs Aerial Tramway, rise above and into wonder. The thrill of getting lost in the view, climbing higher, going farther, and seeing what's out there. Palm Springs Aerial Tramway, rise into wonder. Visit pstramway.com.
All right, so we were having the conversation about Juan Soto. Soto came up. Padres taking on the New York Mets. First pitch I want to say is at 6:40, and desperate for a series win, desperate to get back on the winning track. And if you want to look at the Mets and say, "Oh, this is the perfect team for that to happen against," I'm sure the Mets are looking at the Padres and say, "Hey, we can get back on track." I mean, we single-handedly put the Philadelphia Phillies back into the mix. They go 6-0. And what are they, 3-4 games now above 500? They're feeling great about themselves. So no series is a lock or a guarantee for the San Diego Padres. I don't care if you're playing the worst team in Major League Baseball, the best team in Major League Baseball. At this stage, when you've lost 9 of 10 and you've struggled the way the Padres have, there's certainly no guarantee or lock. But I was having, we asked the question about, will Padre fans boo Juan Soto? The answer is probably yes. I don't know if I still fully understand why that attention goes towards Juan Soto. I think trading for Juan Soto was a really cool moment. Did it work? Clearly it didn't. But is that Juan Soto's fault? Like Juan Soto's fault specifically? We watched the Padres and the Nationals last week, and every time James Wood came to bat, I'm like, oh, that hurts. Every time I saw C.J. Abrams, I'm like, wait, what are their numbers combined? What do they have? Like 27 home runs combined and 85 RBIs. That was at that point. So who knows what they're doing now? Actually, I know those numbers are better because James Wood hit a 2-run homer off the Padres, and that was before we added those stats up. I would say this, and I read a couple of these comments here on YouTube. Let's see what we got here. Here's one on YouTube. Hasn't Soto been booed since leaving? Anyone that boos Soto definitely needs to boo 90% of this current team. Soto wasn't exactly literally our best player, and yet he was the one that got booed. Whatever people's feelings are or thoughts are on Juan Soto, here's what I will tell you just from my perspective. Soto's been gone now for a handful of years. Obviously, he played for the Yankees, and then he now eventually ends up signing with the New York Mets. No one was going to pay. The Padres weren't going to pay Juan Soto $700+ million. So that just wasn't going to happen. So you knew when you traded for Juan Soto, you knew that this was a rental, and then you were eventually going to trade him, which they did, and they got Michael King, and they got Randy Vasquez, and they got, some other pieces. But if you're driving down to the game tonight, don't waste your time booing Juan Soto. Don't do that. There are plenty of players that represent the San Diego Padres right now that are not coming through for you, that to me are worth a much different conversation than booing Juan Soto. So I don't need to go through the list of what Xander's doing this year and what Tatis is doing here. I'm not going to go through it. We all know, and I'd be wasting my time. But I just, the boo Juan Soto thing, I never understood it. I think for the most part, everybody knew that he was going to be a rental and how long he's here for. So if Mason Miller, if down the road Mason Miller gets traded, because the Padres, he's pitched in one game over the last 10 games. If Mason Miller is not a Padre in 2-3 years, we're going to boo Mason Miller. Like, I don't know. I'm so focused. My attention is all on the San Diego Padres that I have a difficult time thinking that energy should go towards a player that's no longer on the roster. All right, let's take a quick call here. Dave, what's going on, brother? Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, hey, Al. Getting back to Juan Soto, one of the things that I think irritated the fans the most, at least from my perspective in remembrance, was that this guy was reportedly, and I think it was accurate, not a team player, meaning this guy ran on his own clock, his own schedule, showed up when he wanted to show up to the team meetings and things of that nature internal to the clubhouse. And you could tell by the way that team didn't perform with him here that by and large, it just was never a good fit. It wasn't a good locker room fit. I don't think, if truth be told, whether or not people want to boo him or not, I mean, I don't think it's worth the time to boo him. Good for, Juan, that he's been able to move on. He had a good little run with the Yankees. Now he's over at the Mets. Who knows?
Dave, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you?
It didn't work out here.
Can I ask you a question? Just stay on for a quick second. So internally, let's just say what you said. And I do remember that when some of those reports of like this guy kind of does his own thing. Is that not on the organization that you allow that? Like, is that when I hear that there's a player that is kind of, I set my own rules. I show up when I want to. I do this, I do that. Everything is that not, whose fault is that? Of course, yes, I'll put blame on Juan Soto. But is that not a San Diego Padres problem? Like, if you're going to tell me that it's almost as if, I know these are multi-millionaires and they're grown adults, but if I'm running a business and I'm running a company and I'm the CEO and I got this guy walking around, he just kind of does whatever he wants. That's on me. That's on my business. That's on the company that I'm running. Not to justify Juan Soto, but that almost angers me more about the San Diego Padres that was the story going on back then.
Well, you're absolutely right. And that was, I think, the frustrations that we're building with Bob Melvin and between Bob and AJ. And they saw it, at the clubhouse level. And the only person that can, I think, give an answer to that would be AJ Preller. He brought him in here. What did he know? What didn't he know? What homework do you do? I don't know. But to allow that to happen in the clubhouse kind of maybe can be extended into why this team seems to be so emotionally disjointed.
Dave,
and to this day, I think they suffer from that.
I appreciate you calling in. Thank you, Dave. Listen, I don't know how much I could connect what was going on a few years back to what's going on today. I do remember that actually kind of triggers a little bit of, again, I'm a Padre fan, so I'm a San Diegan, and I'm watching games with Juan Soto, hoping that the Padres can win a World Series. I didn't have a mic in front of me for 3 hours a day, and Schaefer can probably sit here and tell you a little bit different of a story. I'm sure there's a lot of people in the market that can tell you a little bit a different of a story in regards to the Soto side of things. But when I do hear that, shame on the Padres for allowing a player to be here and say, I kind of do things on my own clock. Yeah, I do things the way I want to do. Now, I get it. There's also a little bit of, but you don't want to lose the player and you don't want to lose the clubhouse or maybe this. I think the best thing they could have done in a situation like that is you do put your foot down and you do let that star player know is that we got a team here. Ain't one player winning a World Series, not one player carrying us. This isn't golf. This isn't tennis. You could even say in basketball, only 5 guys are playing as starters. This isn't basketball either. Yes, LeBron James can kind of dictate whatever he wants. That's not how baseball works. When I hear a story like that makes me more frustrated about the San Diego Padres because those little details are very, very important. What you let one star get away with, what you let somebody else get away with. And, frankly, I think last week we're doing the show. Brett, you remember this. We're doing the show. And John just goes off. He's like, hey, I think Machado's one of the worst leaders in all of sports. And maybe there is something there. Maybe there is the way that things are ran internal. Are you dotting your I's and crossing your T's? Are the players that are getting paid the most, are they representing the organization properly? Hey, you know what? I'm not hitting well, but here's what I am doing. A, B, C, D, and E. I don't know what's happening. I'm not there behind the scenes, but I think these little things all matter. I'll tell you one thing that bothers people about Manny Machado, and I get it. Yeah, Machado doesn't hustle down to first. Okay, what does that mean? Does it mean if he hustles down to first, his batting average will be 280? I don't know. Does it mean he'll go from 11 home runs to 40 by the time the season's done? I don't know. But I think there's a little bit of what's the perception of how things are being ran? Were you going to say something, Brett?
One, I was going to say they're not going to say anything to Soto because at the time they were still under the delusion that he might resign with them and that they might get a deal worked out, even though all the pundits were saying he was going to, demand all this money.
That. But Brent, imagine that. Imagine that this is what you're negotiating with.
But
so before he gets the big contract with you, you're letting him do whatever he wants before he does. What's going to happen once he gets the big contract? You think that's going to change?
But they don't care. It's no different than how they're not going to tell, Machado or Tatis, one of their underperforming superstars, you're batting ninth. They're never, Machado's never going to bat ninth. They should do that, but they're not going to. And this is the same thing. They're not going to tell some high played, superstar, hey, you're not being a team player, because if they do, they're going to go, okay, well then trade me. And then you're screwed.
No, then you could be, I mean, those contracts are so bad. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I mean, I think if you asked a lot of people right now, hey, if you can reset things, what would that look like? A year from now, we might be praying that things got reset. I don't know the answer. I'm going to have to wait to see how the rest of the season goes. Want to squeeze this call in here real quick? James is. Let's do this. James, stay on the line here. Stay on the line. When we come back, we're going to take your phone call. We got a few phone calls lined up. We got also a talk back that we're going to play as well, talking about that Juan Soto conversation. Look, this one, like I mentioned, this is a little new for me, the Soto conversation. But I've been at Petco Park when Juan Soto was there as a Yankee, and I just kind of looked around like, why are we booing this guy? I was at Petco Park when Juan Soto played his first game as a San Diego Padre. So we could continue that conversation. Brad Turner coming up to break down the NBA Finals. Some interesting stuff he had to say yesterday as well, talking about the Lakers and Austin Reeves. We're gonna have him on come on at 5:00. The phone number is 877-767-4760. San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app. Good comments here, guys. Couple good comments I'll bring up. Thank you for throwing the comments in. I appreciate it. I'm starting a few of these here. So thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Got one here from Shotal, if I said Shottle. I got one here from Michael. Good stuff here, guys. Thank you. All right, so we're having the conversation about Juan Soto, his time with the San Diego Padres. I don't know. We're getting a little all over the place, but Soto came up and Padres taking on the Mets. I don't understand the booing towards Soto. People say, yeah, but he didn't have at his time with the San Diego Padres. He didn't get the job done. I don't think many people thought when they traded for Soto that they would re-sign him to a $700 million deal. There's other contracts, obviously, that the Padres have right now. I didn't think that was going to happen with Juan Soto, now playing for the Mets. Let's take another call here. James calling from San Diego. James, what's going on? Thank you for waiting, and I appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. I've been on Padres season ticket over about 5 years, and I was like you. I was at the first game when Soto came over, and the guy hit 2 home runs in the second half of the season when we got him. 2 home runs. We're talking about a guy who was an MVP from Washington, and we get 2 home runs. Sure, he hit some home runs in the playoffs or whatever. Guy was hitting 240, 250. I mean, he didn't give nothing to us. And then he goes to New York, and he's hitting like 40 home runs. He's getting jacked, and he gets the big contract. He didn't care about being here. He didn't do nothing for us. I think we have every right to boo him.
All right. Listen, it's an interesting stance there. I guess the only thing that I would tell you is if you're going to boo him tonight, what are you going to do when the Padres players are up? You're going to give them a little bit of, you're going to cheer for them like they're killing it this year? You're going to throw up your little rally towel here for the San Diego Padres who have lost 9 of 10? I'm just saying let's make it a little bit equal here. Soto's not a Padre anymore. You weren't going to give him $700 million. I mean, if I remember correctly, they traded for Juan Soto, and then Tatis was out for the rest of the season in that playoff run where they beat the Dodgers, where they had a chance to beat the Phillies to get to the World Series. You think Tatis would have helped during that series against the Phillies? Here's the funny thing. I'm not even here. I don't even know why I'm defending Juan Soto. I don't even have a dog in the fight in this. I really don't. I mean, I think people could say they were disappointed in the time Juan Soto had while he was a San Diego Padre. I don't have a problem with that. Of course, I don't have a problem with that. I think maybe my issue is more than anything else. That's your organization has got to take some responsibility there. Your organization has to be able to gauge whether this guy's going to come to San Diego, whether he wants to be here. You obviously know the type of talent that you're giving up to go get a guy like Juan Soto. I saw somebody put it in the chat. I wish they didn't. But let me find these stats here. Somebody put up in the chat between C.J. Abrams and James Wood. I'll try to find it if I can find it. But the numbers I hate looking at the numbers. I almost wanted to shut down YouTube when I saw the numbers. I'm like, just don't tell me that. Just pretend that these numbers aren't real. Woods and Abrams combined 28 home runs, 86 RBIs. Oh my gosh. 28 home runs, 86 RBIs for both of those players. All right, it is what it is. Nothing you could do at this point. I know we got a talk back there as well, Brent. Why don't we play one of those talkbacks?
Well, for me with Soto is he came in, really arrogant at the beginning, and it seemed like he kind of sloughed off a little bit for the first few months. Like, what are you going to do for me, San Diego, versus him recognizing where we were and why we brought him in. And it just kind of seemed like he was still floating on his own coattails of a World Series, and that's why.
I appreciate the talkbacks. Appreciate the calls as well. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, obviously, you want a player like that to come here and value what San Diego can be, and you know what it's eventually going to take. And I think there's some players obviously on this team, and I think that is the Manny Machados, the Fernando Tatises. They've been around long enough. They understand what San Diego means to the city. They understand what a World Series would mean to the city of San Diego. They get it because they've been here long enough. Maybe for Juan Soto, it just never, I don't know. I just came from the Nationals. I won a World Series there. Yeah, I want to get into one of these big markets. He did. He went to the Yankees. That was at the short porch. Probably why he cranked as many home runs as he did. Still killing it with the Mets right now, too. I think everybody just assumed he was built for a big market. All right, then don't trade for him if that's the case. But that trade, when it went down, it was one of the more unique moments in San Diego sports history. It really was. And I'm just being honest. It really was. Now, you look at it today. Do I wish we had C.J. Abrams and James Wood on this team? Of course I do. Of course I do. Come on. Like that's, but this is the world of A.J. Preller. You take chances, and some of these are going to work out. Some of them are not. And a lot of these trades, you don't know until 5 years after a trade of whether it's going to. I don't know if we're going to look at the Mason Miller trade and say, yeah, this was a no-brainer, or we're not. Some of these trades, I could look at Fermin right now and say, yeah, that ain't working out. There's some trades maybe you could get a little bit more immediate impact on, but not all of them, obviously are going to be that way.
Text line, the Padres traded their future for Soto, and he rolled over on everything he hit and looked to walk first. That said, 100% agree with booing Manny and Bogey.
By the way, I'm not trying to create this thing where everybody goes to the game and they're like, yeah, that's it. We're going to turn on our players. The point that I'm trying to make is that, guys, we got plenty of players on this team that if I'm going to give my energy and attention to, I'm giving it to players that are actually wearing a San Diego Padre jersey, not somebody that's not. All right, Brad Turner, who covers the NBA, covers the Lakers for the LA Times. He's going to join the show. We're going to talk a little bit about the NBA Finals, get his thoughts on the first game. Game 2 obviously coming up here in about 45 minutes or so. He had kind of some interesting quotes that went viral yesterday about Austin Reeves. So BT, San Diego State alum as well. Let me go ahead and throw in there. Brad Turner is going to join the show. Stay right here. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. This is San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app.
This update is sponsored by Jamul Casino. The Padres are in downtown and getting set for their game against the Mets. It's going to be Christian Scott going for the Mets and Michael King for the Friars. First pitch is set for 6:40. In other Padres news, Ramon Laureano had hip surgery today and is most likely out for the rest of the season. We got NBA Finals Game 2 tonight between the Knicks and the Spurs in San Antonio. That will tip off here in about 45 minutes or so. Kick off summer at Jamul Casino Resort with the Players Block Party, Saturday, June 13th. Score $20 of free play, free food, and so much more. Don't miss this all-day summer kickoff event. Visit jamulcasino.com for all the details.
All right, final hour of the day, final hour of the week. Appreciate you guys being a part of San Diego Sports 760 live, of course, on the iHeartRadio app. I want to welcome in a good buddy, somebody that's one of the best in the business of covering the NBA, covering the Los Angeles Lakers, BT, Brad Turner. BT, what's going on? Oh, okay, we'll get BT here back here in just a second. I had a perfect intro there for him too, you know. I did everything there. I set it up properly. A San Diego State alumni. We're going to talk NBA Finals here in just a second. You know, there's a conversation now, I think, that's going around. And you know, obviously we focus on the game coming up here, and it's game 2. It's Victor Wembanyama. It's the San Antonio Spurs. It's the New York Knicks. I saw a couple things earlier today. I saw the ticket prices to get in for game 3. And I'm actually going to do this as I sit here, because if I'm correct here, there was a point earlier in the week, it was like $4,300. I'm like, no way, that's impossible. What do you mean $4,300? It's not possible for the ticket to be $4,300. I think that's almost doubled now. I think the get-in price to get in, Brent, can you do me a favor? Find what the get-in price now is for the Knicks game 3 at the Madison Square Garden. Let's welcome in now Brad Turner of the LA Times. BT, what's going on, brother? How are you?
Man, I'm doing good on a Friday afternoon. Going to watch a little basketball. Going to cook a little dinner later on and drink some wine.
This is BT, by the way, is a San Diego State alum. You know, yeah, just we got an Aztec here. Anytime you got an Aztec here, it just kind of it takes it to a different level here, BT. All right, let's start off with this. You just mentioned you're going to watch some NBA Finals tonight. I got a couple questions on the Finals, got a couple questions on the Los Angeles Lakers as well. But let's start with the NBA Finals. What'd you walk away with Game 1? Were you surprised that the New York Knicks were able to walk into San Antonio? They've won 12 games in a row now in the postseason. And I don't know. I said this before the series started. Now, I picked the Spurs in 7, but I said that this is not one of those, hey, whoever wins the Western Conference is going to win the championship. The Knicks have a legitimate chance. Were you surprised about the results of Game 1?
You know, I wasn't. But like you, I did say the Spurs in 7. And after the game on Wednesday night, I flipped. I'm a flip-flopper. And I'm going to say the Knicks in 6. And it's because of the way they played in Game 1. You know, there's momentum switches. The game changes. It's up and down. There's peaks and valleys. And the Knicks have so much talent, and they have veteran presence that they were able to just ride that. They got down 14. It didn't matter. They took a lead. The Spurs came back out within, 1, maybe tied it. And they just used the closer, Jalen Brunson, who it turned out, in my opinion, was the best player on the court, despite him being inefficient, as they were saying. But he had 13 in the fourth quarter. Stephon Castle, no one could guard him, and that surprised me. And then Karl Anthony Towns. He probably is the biggest difference maker there is, because San Antonio's got to figure out a way how to deal with him. If they have Wemby on him, he's out of the court at the 3-point line. Sometimes he was going by Wemby, then can't forget his shot block. If they took Wemby up and let him roll on defense, then they had a smaller defender on him who was just too small. So how do you deal with that? And let's not forget the health of Jalen Brunson. He was knocked around with a foot and the ankle, and he was just looking bad early on, but he came through the clutch. So those two guys are incredible players. Of course, you have the alien, Victor Wembanyama. But man, they're so young, and they're so good and so talented, but that experience was something that I think will be lasting throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, BT, two things you said there. We'll lead with what you just said there at the end. There is something about, guys that been in the league for 8, 10, 12 years. There's something about Mike Brown. I mean,
yes.
You know how long he's been in the league, and if there's a coach, which I will say he's kind of an easy guy to root for, to be honest with you. If there's a head coach that also seems like he's positioned and he's kind of put himself to get his first championship, Mike Brown certainly is in that conversation. That we're going to find out, and I think that's why tonight's game is going to be so interesting. What does it look like? What adjustments does Mitch Johnson make? Was this just a, hey, we needed to have a feel, we needed to have an idea what it was going to be like to play the Knicks? Because the team we saw from the San Antonio Spurs in Game 1 was not the team that we saw in Game 7 against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Was that just one game, or was it, no, we'll make our adjustments, they'll be a lot more aggressive and everything else? We'll have to wait and find out. But you mentioned something about Jalen Brunson, and you've been around the game for a long time, and I know how much you love NBA basketball. I asked this question. I had Anthony Slater, who covers the NBA as well, part of ESPN. I asked him a couple of days ago, I'm like, who does Jalen Brunson, is there a player that Jalen Brunson reminds you of? When you, to see how long you've been in the league, he's such a unique player. He's such a dog. Was the difference, like you said, late in that fourth quarter, the New York Knicks just said, take the ball, we'll get the hell out of your way. And obviously he delivered for them. Player Jalen Brunson reminds you of at all, just in the past?
To be honest, no, only because there's been this talk that small players can't lead a team to an NBA championship. And here he is being, 6'1", 6'2"? And if they win the championship, it's going to be because Jalen Brunson led them there. I mean, his moxie, his ability to shift, his ability to shoot the mid-range, to play the game the right way. If there's one thing he's lacking, he's not a good defender, but he tries on defense. I can't think of any player like him. He's left-handed. He's smooth. He doesn't get upset. He runs the team the right way, and he's a closer, man. That's just he's a unique player in his own right, and he's fun to watch play.
Yeah, he's very, very fun to watch play. And I think if you're the New York Knicks right now, man, what a crazy atmosphere it's going to be. You've been around the game for a long time. What do you think Game 3 is going to be like? Just think about this for a quick second. We'll see, obviously, what happens. Okay, let's say Spurs top the series 1 apiece. But you got Game 3 coming up. It's going to be at the Madison Square Garden. We're just looking at this. What do you think pricing to get in right now? There's a couple that you could use. You could look at SeatGeek, StubHub, TickPick, obviously all these third-party sites. What do you think the price is to get in? What do you think it is?
The last thing I saw was like 7,000, and that was in the 300 section. Am I wrong? Or what do you guys have now?
Brother, it's $7,000 to $7,400 to get in for Game 3 of the NBA Finals between the Spurs and the Knicks. Come on. I mean, look, there's only a few people that I know that can scratch a check like that. One of them is Brad Turner. I don't think I know anybody else that can just walk into the Madison Square Garden and say, I'd like to attend this game. What do you think that atmosphere is going to be like? They're so hungry, obviously, to try to win a championship. They haven't won a championship in over 50-plus years. Back when Phil Jackson was a player for the Knicks in 1973. What are you expecting in Game 3?
Well, first, let me say, if I'm spending $7,400 for a ticket to go to that game, that means I'm not going to Paris. I'm going to Paris. Let's get that out the way. All right. It's going to be.
That's a good decision, by the way.
The last time, I think so too. The last time the Knicks were in the finals was in 1999, and they played San Antonio, and that went 5 games. this team actually has a team that can win. It's a team you can root for. It's a team that their fans have embraced. It's going to be, to use a word, it's going to be bananas.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to be out of control. I mean, I have friends that are Knicks fans, and I'm always giving them a hard time because I'm a Dodger fan. I said, when you guys were 2-0, come talk to me. You know, I don't care. Here we are with the Knicks. He covers the Cowboys. He covers a sports franchise that's iconic, and he still has become a fan because of what the Knicks are doing, and he wears it proudly. And he's happy to see them. I mean, he's lost his mind over this. I have to watch every single game. And I don't blame him. I'm a Saints fan. We don't win a whole lot. We got one Super Bowl, but I'm still a Saints fan. And I still ride or die. Knicks fans are riding and they're dying on every single shot, every single moment in this game, you know, and good for them.
They may get one too. That's not unrealistic by any stretch of the imagination. You were on Spectrum Sportsnet last night. You were talking, I think it was last night. You were talking some Lakers basketball, and let's just say you made the rounds on the good old social platforms here over the last 24 hours. I'm gonna read a quote here. I'm reading a quote to you, and it's your own quote. I don't know if that makes any sense, but you said something about Austin Reeves yesterday. You said, based on what I understand, what I keep hearing, Austin wants the max. Is he willing to give the Lakers a hometown deal? I'm not so sure about that. Can you just elaborate a little bit? Obviously, Austin can make, I think the max he can make is 5 years, $239. And the Lakers,
right, about that, 239, 241, something along those lines.
Right. Yeah, I hear both numbers, but the Lakers obviously trying to build around Luka. What are they going to do with LeBron? What does LeBron want to do? And then you got Austin Reeves, who clearly is a very talented player, also is a player that's got some holes. Is that the backcourt that you want to have for the future with Luka and Austin Reeves? Can you just expand a little bit on part of that conversation that you had yesterday?
Well, I mean, it just comes down to he's homegrown, right? And he's someone they've had in their franchise for his entire career. And there are no other free agents out there in the market as good as he is. If you look at the top 3 free agents, top 5, it's Rui Hachimura, LeBron James, and Austin Reeves. Are you willing to not pay him the maximum amount of money? Maybe they won't, but if you have to want the maximum amount of money, and then you negotiate from that point on. And if they lose him, say he goes to a team like Chicago or Brooklyn, they have cash where they can spend, I think, up to 4 years and $178 million. Maybe that helps the Lakers give them a starting point to know, okay, that's the most they can pay. We can pay a little bit more, but you start high and then you come down low, right? I mean, I'm not a good math guy, but I do know that much. And when Luka was healthy and when Austin was healthy and LeBron was healthy, they were 16-2 in that month of March. They were incredible. When Luka and LeBron were both out early in the season, who led the Lakers? It was Austin Reeves. He was playing at an all-star level. You know, so he's right at that all-star-ish area. Yes, he has to improve his defense. He does try on defense. Yes, he needs to get a little bit stronger, but the dude can play. And the Lakers just can't risk him leaving. I don't think that's going to happen. They want him back. He wants to come back. Both sides have to sit down and hammer out a deal. And if Austin Reeves camp was starting at the moon, and then we'll see what star we end up on.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I had Bobby Marks on my basketball show a little bit earlier today. This morning I had him on. So Hoops Talk with Alan Sue if you're a big NBA fan. But, and, you know, he said that it might just look like there's 2 teams that can make a run at Austin Reeves. But he said that if teams think that there's a chance that they can get him, there's some squads out there that can be creative and they can find ways to get to that number we're talking about, the Brooklyn number or that Chicago number. So it's going to be interesting to see. It might not just be might not just be 2 teams that you can look at today. And the one team that he used as an example, and I don't think he's giving the example as if, hey, this team is going to do that, but he mentioned the Pistons, that the Pistons would have a need for a player like Austin Reeves. So interesting what happens in regards to that. Final one I got for you, BT, and I appreciate the time as always. Dust settles. What do you think happens with LeBron James?
I think LeBron James returns as a Laker. I just wonder for how much money. And will it be enough the Lakers to offer him where he feels comfortable and not insulted? Or will he be upset about what they offer? Will the Lakers make sure they don't offer him another contract at $52 million? Is that a point of contention for them because he will be 42 in December? And so again, it comes down to negotiating and both sides hopefully being pleased with what they do.
BT, I appreciate it, brother. Go enjoy the NBA Finals. When you taking off? For those who don't know Brad Turner, for those who don't know Brad Turner, in the entire NBA circle, everybody knows that once a year he goes to Paris, and that he's gone for like a solid 35 days, something like that. So, BT, when do you basically leave and tell the United States of America, I'll see you in a month or so?
Well, I leave on August 11th.
Okay.
At 9:40 a.m. out of LAX. I connect to San Francisco.
Okay.
I have a connecting flight. I have a 3-hour layover, which means nothing because you're going to the Polaris Lounge, have some champagne. You're going to the Polaris restaurant, have some dinner. And then there's 2 hours to pass by, and then you board your flight. And I leave at 2:40. I think I land on the 12th in Paris and Patty home at about 10:45 on the 12th.
BT is living a good life, man. Look at the details.
There you go.
Every detail, he has it down. You probably already have your Uber driver already picked out.
Well, soon enough, yes.
I appreciate you, BT. Have a great weekend, and thank you again for coming on.
Man, my pleasure. Thanks for having your guy call me back and remind me.
Oh, it's all good. We got you. All right. That's Brad Turner right there, the LA Times, breaking it down, NBA, and also breaking down the Los Angeles Lakers. Okay, we come back. I'm not going to just skip over what those numbers were that he just told me, or what Brent told me about Game 3, what it's looking like. Plus a couple quick thoughts on the NBA Finals. I do want to kind of give my thoughts on what we're going to see tonight. Kevin Acee at 5:30. So Kevin Acee is obviously going to be down at Petco Park. Man, this man's traveling all over the place. Stay right here. San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app. Thank you to BT, Brad Turner. Covers the Lakers, the NBA for the LA Times. Really good dude, really nice guy, and great insight from him. Just real quick on that Austin Reeves front. Brent, you're a big NBA fan. Brother, when people say that this guy's got a chance to make 5 years, 240, like, what? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I mean, I obviously watch, part of my job is covering the Lakers. I'm not telling you that the man doesn't have value. 5 years, 240. There is a cap in the NBA. You know, this is why I love the NBA. This is honestly one of the reasons I think today's structure is phenomenal. You know, I grew up in an era where the Lakers did dominate, right? The Shaq and Kobe era and everything else. This is the right way to run that sport. The right way to run that sport is they're going to have, by the time this year is all said and done, they'll have 8 different champions, 8 different years. And I think that parity is a good thing. And obviously we get it a lot in the NFL. I mean, listen, you could, the New England Patriots, the Kansas City Chiefs, don't get me wrong. You could still have dynasties, but the Austin Reeves 240, 241, whatever that number is, I don't understand how they can possibly do that.
Oh, I have an issue with the max contract thing in the NBA. I don't like how they lump everybody into a category. So by pay wise, you know, Bradley Beal is just as good as LeBron James is.
Good point.
To where I don't like that, to where, you know, the best players should make more money. I don't like how they just lump everyone in there to where, you know, and this isn't a knock on Bradley Beal or anybody like that,
but he's not a top 10 player.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not an
carrying
A+, your team.
Yes, he's not a Wemby. He's not in
Giannis,
the A+ tier
Jokic,
or anything like that. But yet he gets paid like it. And there's, you know,
that's a good
50
point.
or 60 players
that's
just
true.
like that I can't think of off the top of my head that are probably even worse, you know, players than like a Bradley Beal, but they make, you know, pay wise their level with, you know, LeBron.
Yeah, I don't know what they do about that, but it's not perfect. But I think the thing I do like about the NBA is I know that you can clearly tell what front offices, what teams are ran well. And now listen, is there some luck to it? Sure. You might get lucky in the NBA draft and you end up with Dylan Harper with the number 2 pick and you shouldn't have had him. You might get lucky with Cooper Flagg and get the number 1 pick. I get that. But the Oklahoma City Thunder also took a guy, AJ Mitchell was number 38. Lakers could have got him. How many other teams could have got him? The Sacramento Kings, I already know they're going to be bad because they're the Sacramento Kings. Certain franchises are ran well, certain franchises aren't. I just don't want, and not to tie this directly back to baseball, but I know this is going to be a dominant part of our conversation. I like the idea of this is the pool that you get to work with. And if you want to go spend as much as you want in the front office, you can do that. We can't do anything about that. And if you get revenue that's coming in from other places that not every market is created the same, fine. But this is the pool you get to spend on your players. And that's not you're hurting the players' pockets. That's not the conversation. The conversation is the health of the sport is based on competition. A lot of, I think, fan bases and cities out there, that's all they're asking for.
You know, if you wanted to compare it to baseball, that would be like the equivalent of Jackson Merrill making the same amount of money as Shohei Ohtani.
Right, because you have only a certain pool and yeah, no, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I mean, we're going to see Juan Soto tonight, who's got what was his deal? 765 or something like that.
Yeah,
but I think it was more years. I think it was 15 years where Shohei was a discount. That's the crazy thing to say. I mean, they could have paid Shohei any number and he was a discount. All right, Kevin Acee of the Union Tribune is coming up next. We're going to get a chance to talk to Kevin Acee. Get us ready for the San Diego Padres taking on the New York Mets. The Padres have lost 9 of their last 10. Are they going to turn it around? We're all hoping for it. This is San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. The Padres are downtown getting set for their series with the Mets tonight at Petco Park. It's going to be Christian Scott going for the Mets and Michael King going for the Friars. First pitch is set for 6:40. In other Padres news, Ramon Laureano had hip surgery today, and he is going to be out for what they think is the rest of the season. And NBA Finals Game 2 in San Antonio is about to tip off. We're in about 15 minutes between the Knicks and the Spurs. The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more at crohnscolitisfoundation.org.
We're going to get Kevin Acee here in just a second. The San Diego Padres taking on the New York Mets. They're starting a 3-game set. A chance to get back on track. I mean, I'll tell you this. I got no guarantees what's going to happen. I'm not going to assume they're playing the Mets, and the Mets are 8 games below 500. The Padres are in great shape. Definitely not going to assume that. Kevin, thank you for coming on, brother. I appreciate you. When did you fly out? When did you get here? How do you do this?
I got out this morning, so that would be 8:30 Eastern.
Oh, man.
Flight from Philly. Not terrible. Yeah,
Okay.
I usually like to get out at night, but commercial airline travel has become untenable. Let's just put it that way.
You're a beast out there making it happen. Okay, let's start off with the big news today, unfortunately, about Ramon Laureano. Right hip surgery to repair a labrum, could potentially be out for the rest of the season. Just what can you tell us about that, and how big of a blow is this to the Padres?
Well, it's a big blow if what your belief was, their hope, which was that he would get the, shot, that he would get some rest, and that he would come back and be the Ramon Laureano that was somewhere between the guy who started the season and the guy who ended last season. So like a really productive player. If that's what your belief was, if that's the Ramon Laureano that you lost today, then it was a huge blow. Now, he hadn't been that guy for a month. Was the hip the reason for that? So, yeah, look, the guy's big in the clubhouse. He has been a huge contributor on the field. So it's a big blow. He had not been playing to that level. And there was some concern that look, Ramon had a career year last year. He's a very good player, but he had a career year last year. And when they were looking toward, and this is what I'm going to tell you, what does it mean? When they were looking toward the trade deadline and the fact they need to add a bat and probably a left-handed bat, left field was going to be a possibility. So, it certainly is a possibility now.
Kevin Acee joining us here, our Padres insider on San Diego Sports 760. Kevin, I maybe there's an easy answer to this, but when you lose 9 of 10, the vibe just inside the clubhouse, is it loose? Does it feel like they've lost 9 to 10? What happens in this stretch? And I'm just curious because you're there every single day. Can you sense that they are on this losing streak?
You can, and you have to be very careful when you are that professional observer like me and you're in it. And I think fans can relate to this because, if you're a hardcore fan, you're watching every game, it just feels like the end of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to be aware of that, right? That okay, don't get too caught up in that this is the end of the world. Most of these guys are pros. They've all been through losing 9 of 10. But I will say this, early on, you can't really tell. And then it gets to where it's at now. And yeah, there's some more hushed conversations. Certainly the post game is pretty down. And especially when it's going like it has been, where it's all almost the same thing every night. A few twists here and there, and a few twists the last 3 nights with the bullpen. Terribly frustrating. But honestly, I think that through Craig Stammen's direction, through Manny Machado's direction, other guys who've been through it, it's we just need to keep doing this. Maybe we need to do a few things here better, a few things here different, but we just need to keep being the team that we know, or we need to be what we're being and be better. That's kind of the mindset. But yeah, they're pretty frustrated right now.
Kevin, I don't know if, I mean, there's no way of kind of, obviously jumping into Craig Stammen's head and, what can he do and how much of this can he help change? But just out of curiosity, when you're a first-year manager, there's a lot of things that you go. I'm sure there's managers that are 5 years in, 10 years in, and are obviously still learning things on a day-to-day basis. But for Stammen and to know that he's playing or he's managing a team that has expectations, they are clearly trying to win right now, that there are real expectations on this team. How do you think he's approaching things? How difficult of a task do you think it is for somebody that's never gone through this before? Just, from your perspective as you look at Stammen.
Yeah, I mean, he's taking it hard. He's far more competitive than he lets on. He's talked to the team. He took the opportunity to do so. He knew that the Phillies were coming up and that, it wasn't a fire and brimstone speech, but it was, hey, we're not playing well, guys. This is after the National Series. The day that they had 3 innings, including the game end on stolen base, being caught stealing, and Jackson over sliding second base. And they're just not playing very well. And it got worse in Philadelphia, quite honestly. And the belief is that the hitting, just the frustration, the pressure, pressure they're putting on themselves is sort of bled into them making other mistakes. And so, Craig is addressing these things. He takes it pretty hard, but he's also an incredibly positive guy. And so the way that he believes that you tackle these things is you are positive. Now, that doesn't mean the guys constantly in meetings. They're constantly talking about it. I've been talking about this back when they were winning, Craig is a first-year manager. He's got a first-year hitting coach. He is very open to ideas and to changing messaging and all. So he's kind of experimenting and learning how to do this on the fly. And I don't think that people should be, he shouldn't be in charge of a team like this. Well, Craig knows a lot of these players. Craig has been through this before. And so, I don't know. I honestly don't know what Earl Weaver would do with Manny Machado. I don't think Earl Weaver would have a job right now with today's player. But I don't know what the greatest manager of all time would do with some of these hitters just missing pitches that they have always hit. I'm not saying I know everything. I'm just telling you, I don't know what the manager can truly affect at this point. Now, I did write about today, and I think that they've tried to. They need to change up some things in terms of the base running, in terms of it being far more important to these players to move runners over with productive outs and doing things like that rather than just waiting for Manny Machado and Jackson Merrill and Fernando Tatis Jr. to be who they're supposed to be.
Kevin Acee, our Padres insider, joining us on San Diego Sports 760. Schaefer and Sliwa. It's a good point, Kevin. I mean, when you're struggling as much as you are, just anything to get some runs across, anything. I mean, it doesn't matter how you do it, that small ball, and maybe that ignites something. I mean, obviously, we're all waiting for that with the Padres. I'm going to flip here to the pitching staff here real quick. Michael King, how curious are you to see him tonight? And maybe this is me just blowing something out of proportion, but obviously didn't pitch well against the A's, didn't pitch well against the Nationals, and I get it. We do say that this team has such little margin for error because of the offense and, obviously not hitting well. Estrada gives up a run and it's a big deal. Jason Adam gives up a solo. It's a big deal because they're not putting up enough runs. But Michael King is, at least for now, and even if Nick Pivetta was here, I could probably make the case he's their best pitcher. It's so critical for him to get back on track. Does tonight's game, because he's coming off 2 poor performances, is there a little bit more interest in how he bounces back?
See, now I would argue, and yeah, you're right. In the end, when you're the ace, you can't have those performances. I would argue the first 5 innings against the Nationals was one of the best performances I've seen in a few years.
You're right.
Now, he doesn't have his sinker. He barely has his sweeper. He's getting by with the changeup, which is devastating, and four-seam fastball, and maybe the sweeper will work early in a game, and then he shows them the sinker, and he ran out of pitches basically against the Nationals. They knew nothing else was working,
and they jumped on him. And it was also a weird inning. And like you said about the relievers, they have to be perfect. Well, Michael King can't have a weird seventh inning where he doesn't get an out when, Toddy makes a really nice play, goes to second, but throws the ball away. Acee nice single. Then, he lost it. He walked a guy, he hit a guy with a sinker. And so I would argue that Michael King has been pretty amazing for a guy who can't find his sinker. Now, that really doesn't matter, does it? He needs to find a sinker. And then is working like incredibly hard between games to do that. So the bottom line is I'm with you. Every time this guy pitches now, I'm like, okay, is he going to be the ace? Like, is that sinker going to be there? And back to 2024, when there were times you knew a couple innings in, holy smokes, they're not going to hit Michael King tonight. He's going to give you 7 2/3, 1 run, 0 runs, whatever. Go back and look at 24. Like, that's the guy they need. So, yes, I am. And look, he's facing a team that's they have Juan Soto. But other than that, the Mets are the Padres. Offensively, the numbers. I'm actually looking forward to seeing how bad or good the Mets are. So he has a chance tonight to establish what you and I are looking for Michael King to establish.
Final one, Kevin, and appreciate the time as always. We are having, you mentioned Juan Soto. We're having the conversation. I had some listeners calling in, and, I was asking the question of like, what are we really still booing Juan Soto? And they were giving their opinion and their thoughts. Just kind of tell me what was the Juan Soto experience in San Diego, and how would you describe how you think Padre fans react to Juan Soto? And we'll give an example about this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if he's not booed here. He'll be cheered here too, because there's a fair amount of Mets fans, but I would imagine he'll be booed here. And I'm generally kind of confused sometimes when fans, especially San Diego fans, we're just we love our city, and no matter why you leave, we don't like you. And so sometimes when a guy gets booed, I'm like, gosh, I wonder why that guy's getting booed. Juan Soto probably, he didn't do what he was supposed to do here. That's weird to say since he had like a 950 OPS, but it was like the Cheetos of 950 OPSs. It was that most empty 950 OPS you could have. Now, I'm not going to blame the 2023 season on him, but it wasn't what he went on to be with the Yankees. It wasn't what he was with the Nationals. It just wasn't. Now, we don't have time for me to break down that trade tree and what the Padres turned it into, or also for me to say this, that I would think that trade was among the most significant moments in Padres history because of what it said to fans. If you were here for that debut of his, and then a lot of those games going forward, and then remember they went to the NLCS.
Oh, yeah.
And that was gigantic for this franchise. We go get Juan Soto, and we're invested. We're going to pay him in 2023, and they knew that record arbitration contract was coming. That was whether we all appreciate it all the time, that getting Juan Soto, it just said a lot. Now, you can argue, like Peter Seidler, there were some moves that put this team in some bad situations for the future. We got to talk about that another time. But that was quintessential Peter Seidler letting the fans, the media, everyone know the Padres are players. I really think that was awesome.
It's a great perspective. That's a great way to put it. And it wasn't just even one of the most important moments in San Diego Padres history. I would say it's one of the more eye-opening moments in San Diego sports. You're right. They said, yeah, we're here. We have arrived, and we're going to go get one of the best players in the league. Kevin, thank you, man. I appreciate the time. Enjoy the game tonight. Hopefully the Padres can get back on track this weekend.
At least it'd be something different to talk about. Yeah. All right, man. We'll see you.
Thanks, Kevin. It's all Schaefer's fault. I mean, I didn't have a different topic all week. You know what's going to happen? They're going to win this weekend. And then John's going to come back, and he's going to get all the positive stuff around the San Diego Padres. All right, we come back. NBA Finals. I got a couple of things. I want to go back to what the tickets cost at the Madison Square Garden. Interesting Wemby story. I found interesting that I think you guys will like as well. Stay right here. This is San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, in their final match before the World Cup, the U.S. men's national team takes on Germany in Chicago tomorrow. You can hear the match starting at 11:15 tomorrow morning exclusively on San Diego Sports 760. The big news today, Ramon Laureano could miss the rest of the season potentially. Obviously, the San Diego Padres already thin right now. I think about some of the other injuries they have as well. Again, I'll do both sides of it. Pavetta, Luis Camposano, Jake Cronenworth. You just DFA'd Nick Castellanos. So the Padres are really going to have to be trying to figure out how to get through these next couple of months and get back on track. And then they just got a lot of players that aren't delivering. NBA Finals has started. So quick update on the score. 13-10, the Spurs with an early lead, and the Spurs have to win tonight if they're going to make this a series. So hopefully they make that happen. Okay, two stories around New York here real quick. Why don't you go first on this one, Brent? I'm still trying to fully understand what's going on here. So give me the background of your story.
So everyone knows Elmo, from Sesame Street, the little red puppet and everything.
Yep.
Well, Elmo has drawn the ire of New York Knicks fans this week because before game 1 of the finals, Elmo went on X and said, Elmo hopes both teams have fun.
Okay, Elmo, we can't do that.
You can't do that in Elmo because Sesame Street is in New York City.
Yes.
Knick fans are very mad at you now, Elmo. They've been letting him know it. Like the comments are everything from.
Does he usually pick a side?
Probably not, because he's trying to preach sportsmanship to kids and stuff. Probably would be my guess of why he's just like, it doesn't matter who wins as long as we all have fun and stuff like that. But Knicks fans are not having it, so they've been lighting up Elmo's DMs and everything, telling him to get off the fence and pick a side and remember where you live.
If you're based in New York City, you're right, because there's a thing here. I guess they were doing some unveiling for a Sesame Street sign. It says, don't make, no. That's actually different. The original one here is, I think it says, Elmo hopes both teams have fun. And then there's all these basketballs there, and there's 39,000 likes, and there's almost 1,500 comments like, Elmo, pick a side, man. Pick a freaking side. Is it Knicks or is it the San Antonio Spurs? That's pretty funny. Okay, so
and one other person posted like a picture before of, there's Grover on Sesame Street, the blue guy. Well, there's a picture of Grover with Amari Stoudemire and Melo when they played on the Knicks, and it's like, and they said something about, see, we don't have to question Grover's loyalty.
Okay, one other thing here that we talked about, but we didn't get a chance to really get into it. So game 2 going on right now. Game 3 is at the Madison Square Garden. By the way, you also have the President of the United States that's also going to game 3.
He said he might go to game 4 too.
Okay, may go to game 4 as well. Obviously, we know President Trump, a New Yorker. Right now, the tickets to get into game 3, they start at $7,700 on SeatGeek. A ticket to get in is $7,700 on SeatGeek. That's crazy. And by the way, if they win, whether they win or they lose, I think the prices are still going to be absurd. Knicks already accomplished what they were hoping for in these first 2 games. They had to get one of these games, and they got one of these games. So it's going to be a fun weekend. And I don't think that game's until Monday. I think they get 2 days off after this game. Monday night, they'll play game 3 from the Madison Square Garden. All right, as we get ready to wrap up this show, a quick shout out to everybody here. Do a show solo, obviously, with Schaefer out. He's back on Monday, but I appreciate everybody just contributing to the show. We had a lot of great talkbacks. We had a lot of great callers. We had a lot of great people on YouTube that were chiming in, the text line. So I appreciate you guys being a part of the show and obviously being active throughout the show.
Oh, and Marcos from Escondido won our fair tickets. So
Marcos from Escondido, congratulations. You get the 4-pack of tickets to the San Diego Fair. So congrats on that. See if the San Diego Padres can get back on track. Got the New York Mets. Your next 6 games are right here in San Diego. it's obviously the talk, it's the conversation, and we'll see if the Padres can make it happen. I'm Alan Slewa. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This is San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Hope you guys have a good rest of your weekend. We'll see you guys on Monday. Schaefer will be back. We'll see you guys. Have a great weekend.